And let's bring in Senator Jacinta Nampijinpa Price now, the Shadow Minister for Defence Industry. She joins me from Canberra. Senator, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining me. Look, good on you for taking a stand on this today. I've got to ask you firstly, what did you make of the Greens' response?
Oh, it's typical. It's disgusting of the Greens. They're so anti-Australian. I mean, Senator McKim was complaining that if I was going to wear the Australian flag on National Flag Day of all days, then, why can't he be wearing, coming in draped in a Palestinian flag? I mean, this is the Greens for you. They care more about other countries than they do our own country. They're part of the reason why our country sees so much division right now. And you know what? I will stand up for Australia all the time. I love this country. We should be able to wear our Australian flag. I'm going to get a dress or something like that made out of the Australian flag and wear that into the Senate next time around, because the Greens come in, they pontificate, they bring in props all the time, including dead fish, for crying out loud. And they want to complain about me wearing the Australian flag.
It just doesn't make any sense. And it brings me to my next question. Why are the left tying themselves in knots of guilt over the Australian flag? I mean, Nick McKim, the Greens, for example. But I think we are really at a crossroads in this country, because if you wave the Australian flag, suddenly you're now a bigot, you're a racist. I mean, look what happened over the weekend with those marches. How did we get here?
I know. Look, this has been going on for some time now. And I think, and Australia Day is an example of those that want to see this country, brought down. Australia Day, we've seen this growing anger toward the day that most Australians want to celebrate. And because of that, I think that we've come to this point where somehow we're not allowed to be proud of our Australian flag. I mean, I tell people I love it every year driving around Australia over the Christmas period and seeing that the Australian flag is being flown more and more from people's homes. And we've got to get back our national pride, our nation's pride. And what happened on the weekend was exactly that. This was a pro-Australian rally about those everyday Australians sick to death of the left berating us for being proud to call ourselves Australian, for wanting to teach our children to be proud to call themselves Australian. And we need to continue on with that sentiment, because our country needs it now more than it ever has.
Oh, look, I completely agree with you. We really, really need that camaraderie that we once had when we first raised the flag, as we know, back in 1901. Now, look, you also spoke today about the Prime Minister's decision to stand in front of 3 flags at most press conferences. Let's take a look.
The Prime Minister's decision to stand in front of 3 flags isn't an act of respect. It's an act of disrespect. From disrespect comes division. From division comes disloyalty. And from disloyalty comes greater motive for desecration.
And I must point out, Senator, I am yet to hear personally any Labor MP come out today and recognise National Flag Day. I think there seems to be they're hiding away from it. But look, you raise a good point, because you've got the Prime Minister standing in front of 3 flags. Well, I'm not aware that we have 3 flags. We have 1 flag, and that's our national flag.
Look, that's exactly right. I mean, as I've said before, in a global setting, we look confused. Are we 3 people or are we 1 country, Australia? And what angers me also is the fact that, well, on this day today, at the front of our Parliament with our rows of flags, usually it's the 3 flags, the Australian, the Aboriginal and the Torres Strait Islander flags. For the first time, because it's, National Flag Day, we have just rows of the Australian flag until we get to the point where the grass is, and then it continues on with the 3 separate flags. This should not be happening in our Australian Parliament, especially at a time when we're faced with, the geopolitical circumstances that we're faced with. We need to instill pride in our country, in who we are as Australians, built, whether we're the first people, whether we come from convict heritage, which I certainly am and proud of, and whether we come from migrant heritage, which of course my husband is, and many also within my family. But we have built a nation to be proud of, and this is something we should be celebrating every day, not just on National Flag Day, but every day, and we should have our flag flying proudly here at the front of our parliament without any other flag interfering with who we are as a country.
Look, I completely agree with you. Now, you've written a great piece today in the Daily Telegraph as well about penalties for people who do burn the Australian flag. I mean, we've only just seen it recently in Melbourne, which was an absolute disgrace. What are you calling for? What sort of penalties do you think would be appropriate?
Look, in some cases, a fine, I don't think, depending on what the act that takes place and the severity of it and the conduct of the people who are burning the flag. But, I would propose even, a short stint in prison, perhaps, for those who want to burn our nation's flag. I mean, and this is what I implore the Albanese government to do, is to make it illegal to burn our nation's flag. Other countries do it, and we should be doing it too. But our Prime Minister is weak when it comes to leadership. He's weak when it comes to calling out terrorism in this country and those that wish to divide us, anti-Semitism. This is why we're faced with the situation that we're faced with, and he's had to, as recently expel the Iranian ambassador because of what has occurred, because on October 7, following October 7, he failed to call out the protest that took place at the Opera House. He failed to call that out, and this is why we've got the situation we've currently got now. So it's about time this government stood up, made it illegal to burn our flag as a beginning measure, as a start, and start instilling some pride in our country, Australia.
I agree, and jail them. And if you're not proud to be here, leave. The door is open, off you go, because this is a fantastic country, and if you're not proud of it, see you later. Jacinta Nampijinpa Price, really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining me on the show this evening.
Thanks, Danica.